I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who got thrown out of her parents' house on Thanksgiving. But there I was, sitting at the dinner table, fork still in hand, when my father looked me dead in the eye and said, "Get out, paying the mortgage doesn't make you family." And my mother? She didn't even flinch. She just muttered, "You've always been jealous of your brother." That's when I knew I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was a wallet. I stood up, pushed my chair back slowly, and said the words that would change everything. "Fine. Let Ryan cover the 8,500 this time." Then I walked out. No plate, no coat, no guilt. They thought they were cutting me off that night. But really? That was the moment I finally cut them off. And what came next? They never saw coming. They probably don't even remember how it started. But I do. It was a Thursday morning in February, 3 winters ago, when I first dipped into my savings to help them cover Dad's unexpected surgery. I wired the money without hesitation. Family takes care of family, right? That's what I told myself every single time they called. When the mortgage fell behind during the pandemic, I paid it. When the roof leaked. When the car broke down. When Ryan's big idea needed seed funding. 1, 0 here. 2, 500 there. Then, 10, 0. I was working 70-hour weeks in tech, barely living between paychecks, but every time they needed something, I stepped in, quietly. No one thanked me. No one even acknowledged it. Meanwhile, Ryan showed up to every family event in a new blazer, talking about investors, Series A, and expansion. I once overheard Mom tell a friend, "Ryan's really going places. He's building something big." She said it like I wasn't even in the room. They didn't see the sacrifices behind my silence. They didn't see me skipping vacations, driving a 10-year-old sedan, eating microwave dinners while my peers traveled the world. They just saw someone lucky enough to help. That's exactly what Mom said to me a few months ago after I'd paid the back taxes on their house. "You're lucky, Rowan. Not everyone has that kind of money to give." I wasn't lucky. I was exhausted. But I kept going, kept giving, kept swallowing every tiny slight. Because I thought if I gave enough, maybe one day they'd finally see Minot, just as the unmarried daughter with no kids, but as someone who mattered. But that night at the Thanksgiving table, when my father dismissed me like a tenant late on rent, I realized something brutal. I had never really been part of that family. Not in the way Ryan was. Not in the way that earned pride or warmth or defense. I was just the one who cleaned up their messes. The one who paid so they could pretend everything was fine. The ghost with a checkbook. And for the first time, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt awake. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken, that part had passed years ago. I didn't sleep because something in me had finally broken, quietly but completely, like the snapping of a rotten beam beneath a floorboard you've been standing on too long. The next morning, I opened my laptop and canceled every automated payment I'd ever set up for them: utilities, internet, credit card minimums. One by one, I deleted 157 receipts from my records. It felt like erasing proof of my own erasure. They didn't know yet, but they would soon. The first call came from my mother around 9 a.m. "Sweetheart, the electricity bill says failed transaction. Can you check?" I didn't answer. By noon, I had 7 missed calls. By 4 p.m., I got the first message from Ryan. "Hey, bit of a weird charge hit my Amex. Can you spot me just this once? I'll Venmo you back." I stared at it for a full minute. That wasn't even a lie anymore. That was a script. "Just this once," was what he said before I covered his rent. "Just this once" was how I ended up paying for his business trip to Denver. "Just this once" had become code for, "I know you'll cave." But this time, I didn't. They started calling in waves. Dad left a voicemail that sounded more like a threat than a plea. "Don't let one dinner ruin everything. Be mature about this." Mature? After what he said at the table? Mom sent a long, emotional text. "We were all upset. You know how your father gets. Don't hold a grudge, Rowan." And then Ryan again. "Come on, Ro. You're blowing this way out of proportion. You know we love you. Love. What an interesting word to toss around, when they'd just thrown me out like I was the waitress who forgot their order. For the first time, I didn't feel flattered by their need. I felt used. And the more they reached for me, the more I saw it. They didn't want me back, they wanted the version of me that paid quietly and asked nothing in return. But that Rowan was gone. She'd walked out on Thanksgiving night and left no forwarding address. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark. No music, no emails, no distractions. Just me, my breath, and the quiet pulse of something new rising in my chest. Resolve. I wasn't sure what came next. But I knew this much. Whatever it would be on my terms. 2 days after Thanksgiving, I logged into my bank account to check a transaction and froze. There it was. A brand new credit card I hadn't opened. Balance. 11,742. Merchant names I didn't recognize. Luxury hotels in Seattle. Electronics. Upscale dining. A watch that cost more than my rent. I clicked into the account details. They'd used my name, my social security number, my mailing address, but not my email. That belonged to someone else. No, not someone else. Ryan. I knew it the way you know a storm is coming gut level. The pieces clicked into place faster than I could breathe. I sat back in my chair, hands trembling not from fear, but from fury. After everything I'd already done, after being cast out, still found a way to take more. He didn't just want my money. He wanted access. I didn't cry. I didn't even scream. I opened a new browser tab and typed, "How to report identity theft." That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled documents, old receipts, screenshots of text messages, copies of transfers marked urgent or family emergency. I printed every one. Then I emailed my lawyer. By sunrise, I'd filed a fraud report with the credit bureau, frozen all my accounts, and scheduled a meeting with Detective Ramirez at the Portland Police Department. I walked into that precinct, not as a victim but as a woman on the edge of war. The detective was calm, sharp, and surprisingly kind. I handed him the manila folder I'd prepared. "This is a family matter," I said. He flipped through the papers. "Not anymore," he replied. "This is felony-level bank fraud and identity theft." He asked me if I wanted to press charges. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I want to do more than that. I want it on record. I want it to stop happening. To me and to anyone else." Because deep down, I didn't believe I was the only one. That afternoon, as if sensing the storm I'd just unleashed, the messages began pouring in again. Ryan first. "Ro, call me. It's not what it looks like." Then my mother. "Don't make impulsive decisions. Your brother made a mistake." And finally my father. "You're exaggerating. This can be handled in the family." I laughed out loud. Handled. They'd handled me for years. But not this time. This time, I was the one drawing the line. And when I said no, I didn't mean try harder. I meant never again. 3 days later, they showed up. No text, no warning, just fists pounding on my apartment door like they were trying to break it down. "Rowan, open up!" My father's voice thundered through the hallway. My mother cried behind him, her sobs loud enough for neighbors to peek through their blinds. Even Ryan was there pacing, pale, sweating like someone already halfway to jail. I didn't open the door right away. I let them wait. Let them feel that silence that had always belonged to me. Then, slowly, I turned the lock and opened the door, just enough to meet their eyes. "I'll give you 10 minutes, I said. "That's all." They barged in like a tidal wave of perfume, desperation, and denial. My mother was already crying. My father tried to look calm, but his clenched jaw gave him away. Ryan looked like a boy pretending to be a man. "Listen," he began, voice shaking. "There's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I laughed. "You stole my identity and racked up almost $30,000 in charges. That's not confusion, Ryan. That's a felony." My father stepped forward, his voice low and sharp. We're family. You don't call the police on family. I turned to him. Funny. Last week you said paying your mortgage didn't make me family. Now suddenly we're blood again? My mother whimpered. We were upset. We didn't mean what we said. Yes, you did, I said. You meant it when you let me pay your bills for years. When you let Ryan drain my savings. You meant it when you chose silence over truth. Ryan's face twisted. You've always been resentful. Just admit it, you can't stand that I've been more successful than you. That did it. I stood up, hands clenched at my sides. Successful? I snapped. You've lived off my back for 5 years. You lease a luxury apartment, drive a car you can't afford, wear $1,000 shoes in my dime. I gave up vacations, drove a 10-year-old Corolla, and worked double shifts while you played entrepreneur. You're not successful, Ryan. You're a fraud. He lunged toward me, but my father caught him by the shoulder. Enough, my father barked. You're destroying this family. No, I said, voice steady. You destroyed it when you decided I was only as valuable as my wallet. I walked to the door and opened it wide. The next time we talk, I said, we'll be in court. They stood frozen. My mother reached out one last time. Rowan, please? I shook my head. You never cried like this when I was drowning. Then I closed the doorknob in anger, not with a slam, but with peace. By the end of the week, Ryan was officially under investigation. Detective Ramirez called me back to confirm the obvious. This wasn't just identity theft, it was part of something larger. Multiple victims. 3, so far. 2 former investors and 1 ex-business partner, all of whom had stayed quiet out of embarrassment. But once they learned someone had spoken up, they came forward. I wasn't surprised. I'd always known Ryan couldn't stop at one well. He drained every cup until it cracked. But what did surprise me was who started calling next. It began with my Aunt Linda, my father's sister. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I missed a family wedding due to burnout and got blamed for being selfish. Her voice, when it came through my phone, was soft, almost ashamed. You did the right thing, Rowan, she said. We all knew what was happening. But your parents, they never let anyone say it out loud. Then it was my cousin Marissa. Then my mother's brother, Uncle Tim. One by one, they whispered truths they had kept behind family smiles. He's always been the golden child. They never told him not even when he forged my name on a business form. I'm sorry we didn't speak up sooner. We were scared to lose our place. That sentence struck me hard. Lose their place. As if family had tears. And if you told the truth, you fell off the ladder. I realized then that I wasn't the only one who had lived under unspoken rules. I was just the first to stop playing by them. And then, a call I didn't expect. Jenna, Ryan's ex-wife. We hadn't talked since their divorce 2 years ago. She'd vanished quietly, her name removed from every Christmas card as if she'd never existed. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling. I hesitated. For what? For doing what I couldn't, she whispered. For standing up to him. She told me everything. How Ryan drained their joint savings, forged her signature on a personal loan, left her tens of thousands in debt. He didn't just lie, she said. He made me believe I owed him. I listened in silence, the pieces slotting into a darker puzzle than I'd imagined. And your parents, she added bitterly. They defended him until the very end, said I was bitter, said I didn't understand him. I thanked her for telling me. I told her she wasn't alone anymore. And maybe for the first time in both our lives we meant it. That night, I sat on my couch in the quiet, letting it all settle. The truth was out. The cracks were widening. And the people who had always stood behind Ryan were finally starting to scatter. Not because I asked them to. Because he had built his empire on silence, and I had broken it with one word: no. The night before the hearing, my phone rang. It was late, almost midnight, and I knew the number. My father. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, thumb hovering. I could have let it go to voicemail like the dozens before it. But something in my curiosity, maybe closure, made me answer. "Rowan," he said, voice clipped and cold like the man I'd always known. "You testify tomorrow, and you'll ruin this family." I didn't speak. I let the silence stretch like a canyon between us. "You'll destroy your brother's future," he pressed. "Your mother hasn't stopped crying. We raised you better than this." I laughed. Quiet, bitter. "You didn't raise me, Dad. You groomed Meadowgive. To absorb, to disappear." "That's not true," he snapped. "You've always been the envious one. Always tried to compete with Ryan." There it was. That same line, polished with decades of denial. And for the first time in my life, it didn't sting. I smiled. "And you've always been blind," I said. "Even now." I ended the call. The next morning, I sat in the courthouse hallway, my folder resting in my lap, heart steady. Detective Ramirez gave me a small nod. Ryan walked in a few minutes later, flanked by his attorney. He looked thinner, hollow, but not sorry. When his eyes met mine, there wasn't even a flicker of guilt, only fury. Like I had betrayed him, not the other way around. I took the stand. I told the court what happened. How I found the credit card. How the charges stacked up. How I traced it all back to him. I provided documents, emails, screenshots 7, a message that read, "Just cover it for now. I'll fix it later. You know I always do." The prosecutor didn't need to stretch anything. The facts spoke for themselves. When the judge read the sentence, 7 years in federal prison, restitution required, I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I felt free. But not the kind of freedom that comes with celebration. The kind that comes with release. Like unclenching a fist you didn't realize had been tight for years. My parents sat stiffly behind Ryan. My mother looked like she was attending a funeral. My father didn't move once. They didn't look at me. But they didn't look at him either. I walked out of the courtroom alone. Back to my small apartment, my chipped coffee table, my silence. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. Not lonely, liberated. That night, I poured a glass of wine and looked around the room. There was no begging, no invoices, no guilt hovering in the air like steam. Only space. Only breath. It wasn't justice in the grand, cinematic sense. But it was mine. And after all those years, that was enough. 2 weeks after the trial, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it cautiously and froze. Standing there, nervously wringing her hands, was Aunt Terasami, grandmother, Margaret's oldest daughter, my mother's sister. We hadn't spoken in years. She looked smaller than I remembered, not fragilely, just unsure. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said gently. I stepped aside. "Come in." We sat in the living room, awkwardly quiet at first. She kept glancing around, her eyes pausing on the framed photo of me and Grandma from a birthday years ago. We'd both had cake on our cheeks. "I wanted to tell you in person," Teresa began. "Mom passed away last week." My heart didn't break. It folded, quietly, like a flag. Grandma had been the only one in the entire family who treated me like a human being, not an extension of Ryan, not a wallet. She never pressured, never asked for anything, never took sides. She just saw me. "She left you something," Teresa said, reaching into her bag. A manila envelope thinner than I expected. Inside, a handwritten letter. I unfolded it slowly. "My dearest Rowan, I always knew they didn't see you the way I did. They saw a daughter without a husband, a woman without children, a bank account with boundaries they refused to respect. But I saw you. The fire in you. The kindness that didn't ask for attention. The spine that bent, but never broke. I wish I'd done more. I wish I had spoken up when I saw them using you. But I hoped, maybe foolishly, that you'd find your way out. And you did. Don't feel guilty for choosing yourself. That's what I always hoped you would do. I leave you this home, this account, This peace because I know you'll build something with it that they never could. Not a business. Not a reputation. But a life worth living. Love, Grandma Margaret. I didn't realize I was crying until I saw the tear fall onto the corner of her signature. Aunt Teresa placed a second document on the tablet copy of the will. Everything. The house. The savings. The garden Grandma loved. It was all mine. I think, Teresa said softly, she always meant for it to go to you. She just never trusted the others to respect that. I sat in silence after she left, the envelope resting on my lap like a weight and a gift all at once. I expected guilt to return. That old ache in the gut that whispers, you should forgive them, help them, return to the fold. But it didn't come. What I felt was justice. Not the courtroom kind. Not vengeance. But balance. Truth finally choosing a side. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of the house. Grandma's house. My house now. It wasn't big. The paint was chipped. The garden was overgrown. But it was mine. No one had access to my bank account. No one could call to guilt me at midnight. No one could twist love into obligation. I stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of lavender and old books. I ran my hand along the banister, whispering, "Thank you." That night, I slept with the windows open and the doors locked, not out of fear, but for the first time, by choice. The next morning, my phone lit up with missed calls. Stephanie, Richard, Ryan. They had found out. I didn't answer. They lost the right to access me the day they told me I wasn't family. And now? I finally believed them. I didn't answer any of their calls. Not when Stephanie left voicemails filled with choking sobs. Not when Richard texted, "You're acting like a stranger to your own blood." Not even when Ryan's, even no-mailed, "Congrats on the inheritance. Grandma always did favor the quiet ones." They were wrong. She didn't favor me because I was quiet. She left it to me because I finally spoke. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I got to work. I rolled up my sleeves, scrubbed down kitchen tiles, still scented with lemon oil, cleared out closets full of mothballs, and decades of faded linens. I pruned the garden, one rosebush at a time, until my hands blistered and my chest ached not from pain, but from the strange, blooming sense of belonging. This was my house now. And not just legally. Emotionally, spiritually, truthfully. No one had ever called it mine before. Now no one could take it back. I installed new locks. Painted the front door blue, the same shade as Grandma's old teacups. I didn't replace the doorbell. Not out of spite. But because I no longer needed people who showed up just to take. If someone truly wanted to reach me, they'd knock. And wait. There were quiet nights when I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the trees, wondering what forgiveness should feel like. I thought it would be loud, dramatic, a hug in the rain, a tearful reunion. But what I felt was peace. And peace, I learned, makes no noise. It didn't rush in to fix what others had broken. It didn't beg to be seen. It simply sat beside me, like an old friend I hadn't recognized for years. People in town began to wave at me again. Some of them remembered me as the daughter who left. Others only knew me now as the woman who lives in Margaret's house. That was enough. I didn't need a title. I didn't need validation. One afternoon, I got another envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo, and Grandma, at the age of 9, both of us holding paintbrushes and standing beside the same blue door I'd just repainted. On the back, in shaky handwriting, "You were always building your own home, Rowan. I just gave you the key." I held it to my chest. Not crying, not aching. Just still. Today, I walk through my life without the weight of their approval. Without the pressure to explain, to give, to bleed. I have a modest job I love. A garden that grows slowly but faithfully. And a home that doesn't echo with debt or guilt, or anyone else's disappointment. Sometimes the phone still rings. I don't pick up. Because healing doesn't mean reopening doors. Sometimes, healing is knowing which ones to leave shut and walking forward without waiting for someone to call your name. And me? I don't just know who I am now. I know who I've always been.